Welcome back, humans, fools, and mutated ghouls. My name is Mara. You're on the channel Beware Mutated Zombies, and I'm a mutated zombie, but you don't need to beware me because I am kind of tired. Yeah, we went on a very long excursion. Very sorry about not being able to upload videos, give you guys any updates. But things are okay now. I am just exhausted from all that jazz. But looks like there was an update to Streamlabs, so things should hopefully be better, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how that works. It could make things worse. Who knows? We'll see. I know it said that the computer that I'm currently using, which is a laptop, because that makes sense when you're on the go, that it had some sort of driver issue. I don't know. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, we are still playing Cinderella Phenomenon. We're still on Rod's route. And I don't really remember what's going on. So let's go ahead and pick up where we left off. I'm sure you guys remember. Maybe you don't. That's why there's a playlist if you'd like to go over and watch the videos to get caught up. I'd recommend that, because it's been forever. Alright, let's go and see what's going on. Today's the first time that I am leaving the palace on a day off. Usually I choose to stay inside. Whereas the other servants always leave to go home, I never see any reason to leave since this has always been my home. And the Marchen has never been my home. Besides, it is not as if I want to return. Not after that conversation we all shared last time. Oh yeah, she learned the truth about her parentage, her mother and father's relationship, who her mother is. She learned that her mother was Queen Evil, with a capital E. Thus I have spent most of my days asking questions about Mother's reign, inquiring when and where I can. The opinions do not surprise me. I was so scared of her. One wrong move, and she'd have you thrown in prison. The townsfolk would always wait for her to pass by before leaving their houses. She was a tyrant. The kingdom is a better place now that she's gone. There's no reason for them to lie to me. The more I hear, the more my old life makes sense to me. I now know why the king never seemed to love Mother and why the people hated her, and the reason people looked at me with such fear. However, it has been months since I have been glared at in public. If there is one good thing that this curse did for me, it is that it allows me to travel around town without being noticed. As Viarka's shop comes into view, my thoughts shift to the reason I have left the palace in the first place. Oh yeah, and she's gonna go question Viarka to find out why Rod doesn't want his curse removed, and she thinks that Viarka is the reason for the curse in the first place. So let's keep going. If Rod will not tell me anything, I will have to ask Viarka. She must be related in some way to his curse. I pause outside the door to the toy shop. With a deep breath, I push open the door. Welcome. The moment she sees me, her expression becomes confused. Oh, you're the princess's maid. Princess's maid. Lilac, wasn't it? I nod at her. You've never come in here alone before. What can I help you with? I wanted to ask you something. It is about Prince Rod. Prince Rod? Did something happen to him? Is he okay? He's fine. She sighs with relief. Then what is it you would like to ask? I just wanted to know if you knew anything about Prince Rod's sudden muteness. Viarka stares at me for a few moments before she shakes her head. I only know that it happened soon after I met my fiancé, Desmond. What reason do you have for asking? Well, I try to think of a plausible explanation for this, and I immediately consider Emmeline. Viarka is Emmeline's best friend. Surely she would be willing to help if she knew I was doing this for Emmeline. Prince Rod has been very quiet recently. Princess Emmeline has been worried sick about him, but he refuses to say anything, even to her. I have been trying to gather information that might be helpful in discerning the cause. I stare at her expectantly, hoping that my gaze holds nothing but determination. Finally, Viarka smiles. She's lucky to have a dedicated friend like you. I am still not accustomed to the fact that Emmeline considers me a friend. Before she became the princess, I was her first confidant. We were like sisters. But now that she's living in the castle, we no longer have the luxury of spending so much time together. I worry about her constantly. Even around me, Em always tended to keep her problems to herself at first. She doesn't like to bother people with them. It's hard not to agree. With the way Emmeline was always smiling before, I never thought she had any problems in her life. It was only recently that I discovered that she was hiding all her loneliness and pain behind a smile. It's a relief that she's befriended someone who cares so much about her. I don't know if I can be much help, but I'll tell you what I know if it will help Emmeline. To start with, I'm not exactly sure how everything changed, but it all happened so suddenly. All I know is that right after the night I met Desmond, our relationship changed. At first, he still smiled, but recently he's been avoiding me. What happened between the two of you the night you met your fiancé? Nothing. Rod and I did not meet on that day. Prince Rod wasn't there? No, but soon after what happened that night, Rod grew distant. What happened? Oh, flashback. It was a stormy night and I was heading back home. I took the route by the riverbank because it was the shortest route. It was foolish of me. The road was slippery and full of mud. I lost my footing and fell into the water. The waves were strong and I was certain I was going to drown. I don't remember what happened in the darkness of that water, only that when I woke up, my head was in Desmond's lap. That was the first time we met, but not the last. He carried me home and he came by every day as I was recovering. And then he came to visit even after I had recovered. I tried not to get my hopes up too much because what could this nobleman see in me, a mere commoner? But I still ended up falling in love with him. You have no idea how happy I was when he said he loved me too. It was a dream come true. Of course, every girl dreams of marrying a prince. It was in all of the fairy tales that I read as a child. None of that was at all related to Rod. How does this relate to his curse? You said your relationship with Prince Rod changed after that night. What happened? Bjorka sighs. I told Em and Rod about Desmond soon after the incident. Em was happy that the two of us had fallen in love, but Rod didn't say much of anything. That's when I noticed he started growing distant, and when I realized that, he had also lost his voice. He still won't tell me anything, but I figure that he was. Her voice fades, but I know that she is referring to the curse. Sir Rod lost his voice shortly after Bjorka met Desmond. The mermaid's curse must have something to do with the tale. The little mermaid traded her voice for legs so that she could be with her prince, but that night the only person who found their prince charming was Bjorka. Rod's curse must have something to do with Desmond and Bjorka. He became distant with her after finding out about Desmond. Why? Then there is the fact that he still spoke to Bjorka even if he was distant. It was only when he found out about their wedding that he became so cold. I frown as I try to organize my thoughts. How did it get to be this late? I'm so sorry, Lilac, but I have to close the shop now. Sorry for the story. I know it has nothing to do with Rod, but it was after that incident that he began to act strangely. I don't think I was much help, but I shake my head. You have told me what you could. Bjorka walks me to the door, opening it so that the both of us can step out onto the street together. I really hope that you're able to help Emmeline and Rod. I hope so too. Did you see Ophelia the other day? I catch sight of two noble women sitting on a bench together, not too far away from the toy shop. They're referring to Ophelia without her title. How disrespectful. Who would have thought that a peasant like her could almost look like royalty? But her dress. As the queen, she ought to be wearing silks rather than satin. I do not know why, but I bristle at their comments. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but the fact that they are speaking so bluntly in public means that they have little worry of being overheard. I'm still not sure what the king saw in her. Well, you know what they say about ladies lacking natural beauty. Her talents must lie in other, more persuasive areas. Wow. She must be very persuasive indeed if the king saw it worthwhile to marry her. As the two women laugh, I feel something hot begin to burn in my stomach. Bjorka takes in a sharp breath beside me. Since I became a maid in the palace, Ophelia has been nothing but kind to me, a mere servant. She has all the right to flaunt her status and title, yet she remains humble. I now know that this is why everyone at the palace loves her. Common women like her can only keep a man's attention for so long. I start walking toward them without thinking. Oh no. Lilac, I wouldn't. You have no right to say those things about the queen. The two women are clearly surprised at my interruption. Both of them glare at me. And you have no right to eavesdrop on us. Eavesdropping? Anyone could have heard you. Their mouths fall open. One of the women looks at me for a long time, then sneers suddenly, as if something has occurred to her. I thought you looked familiar. You're the crown princess's personal maid. I see you always following her around when she's in town. This is none of your business, girl. Why do you care so much for our opinions? Perhaps it's because the girl idolizes the queen. Thinks she might also go from rags to riches. What? Oh, you do have a point. They stand in advance toward me. Do you want the prince for yourself, girl? If a commoner can become the queen, it's not too difficult to imagine yourself as a princess, is it? How foolish. You're better off dreaming smaller dreams, girl. They laugh, and the irritation in my chest blazes into a full-on anger. Is this what Ophelia has been dealing with for the past year? She is being treated so cruelly when she has done nothing but love the king. And I also ridiculed her just like this. Yeah, you did. I forced myself to look at the cruel women as I moved my hand to the pendant hanging around my neck. I was just as cruel as them. I barely feel Viorica's hand as she rested against my shoulder. Lilac, let it go. Her Majesty wouldn't want you to do this. But I cannot just let these two women talk about Ophelia like this. I pull away from Viorica and stand firm. The queen has a good heart. She is more noble than either of you could ever hope to be. I think back on the times I was cruel to her. Ophelia could have easily reprimanded me for my behavior. She had that right as my stepmother, yet she had been nothing but kind to me. Ophelia never got angry at me, even despite my treatment toward her and her family. She has always treated others with kindness, even when they are cruel to her. Judging from the bitterness in your accusations, it seems like you are jealous of her. How pathetic. The other woman marches toward me, and my free hand instinctively moves to hold her hand just before her palm reaches my cheek. I will not tolerate any insults toward the queen. A soft light emanates from the pendant, and I can only stare at it in shock. I got another good deed? By defending Ophelia? The woman snatches her hand away. How dare a peasant like you talk that way to us? Have you no manners? Seems like that would be a good deed if it were in front of Ophelia. Like, if it were in front of someone who would think of it as, like, or, like, if it were, like, good as an impact on that person. So, like, if Ophelia or Emmeline or maybe even Rod saw this, but I don't see how it's a good deed if York sees it. I don't know. How dare a peasant like you talk that way to us? Have you no manners? I could ask you the same. What happened to yours? How dare you? Don't you know who we are, girl? Bitches? I will see you pay for your impertinence. Our words have far more weight than yours ever will. I will go to the king myself to tell him about how rude you were. I can pass on that message myself. Oh, okay. I turn and see Rod walking towards us, his expression cold. The two noblewomen hastily curtsy. Your Highness. The noblewomen turn pale as Rod's eyes fall on them. Actually, we have an important dinner engagement. Yes, we do. The two noblewomen curtsy before quickly departing. What are you doing here without your guards? What trouble have you gotten yourself into now? Don't tell him. It is nothing. If you refuse to tell me what happened, I will have to assume that the noblewomen were telling the truth about you. Lilac has done nothing wrong. In fact, I think Lilac only did what you or Emmeline would have done had you heard the awful things that those women were saying about your mother. What? She stood up for the queen when she didn't have to. And why didn't you just say so? Would you have believed me? Rod drops his gaze from mine. You never gave me a chance to believe you, did you? He would have believed me? How am I to know that? Rod is like a walking contradiction. I just didn't feel the need to tell him. Not, I didn't think he'd believe me. I was just like, there's no need for me to say all the goodness that I've done in this world. You don't need to know. I'm just going to keep it to myself. You can think what you want about me. I'm just going to keep it to myself. Like, why are you turning this? Rod glances up again, this time to look at Viorica. We shouldn't keep you from returning home, Viorica. I'll take Lilac back to the palace. Viorica's eyes narrow, and she looks ready to say something, but Rod has already reached out for my hand to pull me along behind him. When we were out of sight of Viorica's shop, Rod stops, releasing my hand as he turns to face me. Did you really think I would refuse to believe you if you had told me the truth? You never liked me. You have no reason to believe me. Rod sighs, running a hand through his hair. I told you that I would help you break your curse, right? That offer alone should be enough for you to know that Rod turns away, suddenly looking embarrassed. That I don't dislike you anymore. Oh, I chose the good ending reason part thing anyways. Yay! But still, that's not the reason why I chose what I chose. You're expecting me to just assume that? How would I know unless you made that absolutely clear? Well, I'm making it clear now. I understand. Anyway, thank you for standing up for my mother. It seems like you don't require my assistance in breaking your curse after all. Excuse me. Excuse me. He gestures to my necklace. Congratulations on your second good deed, Lilac. Suddenly tongue-tied, I find myself looking everywhere but at Rod. When I have once again gathered my senses, I turn to the road. My eyes narrow as I recognize the path we are on. This is not the way back to the palace. No, it isn't. We are going to the Marchen. Why? Because I was on my way there before I was forced to take a detour because someone was drawing attention to herself. What? But Rod ignores me and we walk the rest of the way to the Marchen in silence. Walt is the only person in the reception room when we return, or when we enter. Prince Rod? Princess? It's a little late for the two of you to be here. I had meant to be here earlier. Is Lady Parfait here? Walt nods. I'll go get her. Wait here. As soon as Waltz leaves us alone, Rod turns to me, his expression rigid. Rod steps closer and grabs my shoulders. What? Even the bunny's mad at me. Look at those angry eyes. I wasn't able to say so earlier because we were out in public, but you should know just how much danger you're in now, and yet you thought it was okay to go around on your own? It was my day off today. It's not unreasonable for me to want time for myself. Time for yourself? Don't you understand the meaning of be careful? Why would you do something as foolish as going out into town alone? I cannot help but bristle at his tone. Why are you so angry? Because you're... Rod trails off and looks away. Because you're family. So you are finally acknowledging me as family? He wants to see you more than just as family, which is awkward. I notice his cheeks turning red. Be honest, you're less of a family member and more just... important. Important? Because of all that you do for Emmeline. You're important to my sister. Right. He looks uncomfortable as he says the words, and I cannot help but marvel at his embarrassment. Why is he so embarrassed? But Rod changes the topic as he turns away from me. Why were you with Viorica? Oh, no. I can only think of one reason you'd speak to her. My curse. You thought you'd find out about my curse through her. I shrug. I can only assume that your curse has something to do with Viorica. I look up when Rod says nothing, or says something, then stare at the curious sight before me. He has taken Sebi off his shoulder and is holding the doll in his hands, away from his face. The two seem to be engaged in some silent conversation. Then gently, Sebi speaks words I can't hear. I want to see that picture. I want to see Rod holding Sebi. That sounds adorable.
This is the right thing to do. You need to let her help you, Rod.
Rod bites down on his lower lip before briefly closing his eyes. Eventually, he returns Sebi to his usual spot on his shoulder and turns to me. Fine. You're stubborn and you're not going to quit investigating unless I tell you, are you? You're right. Viorica is the reason I was cursed. Rod sits down on the settee and lets out a heavy sigh. His eyes are far away as he speaks to me. I was in love with Viorica, but I wasn't brave enough to tell her. I just followed her around like some kind of puppy. One day Viorica hadn't come home and it was raining very heavily, so I went out to look for her. I found her walking along the bank of the river. I called out to her to tell her to be careful, but I don't think she ever heard me. She slipped and... Rod swallows. He clenches one of his hands into a fist. She fell into the river. I dived in after her. I somehow managed to get both of us onto the riverbank, but it didn't look like Viorica was breathing. I didn't know what to do. I started panicking. I ran off to try and find help, but I couldn't find anyone in the storm. When I returned, she was gone. I rushed to her house, and a doctor was already there attending to her, along with Desmond. Rod's gaze is vacant as he nods. When Viorica began to fall in love with Desmond, I felt helpless. Did you not tell her that you were the one that saved her? Why would I? Viorica was so happy believing that she and Desmond were fated to be together. I couldn't do that to her. But surely if you had told her... Rod interrupts me. I want the people I love to be happy. I don't care if their happiness causes me pain. I'd rather bear that alone instead of bringing down those around me. My chest aches as I watch Rod's face. I never would have guessed that Rod would be so selfless. But that didn't stop me from thinking that I could still make her love me instead. I decided to become what I thought Viorica wanted most, the Prince Charming of the fairy tale she had so adored. And so I asked a witch to turn me into one. She stole my voice in exchange. What? Only then did I realize that she had inflicted the fairy tale curse upon me, the mermaid's curse. The next day the king turned up at our house, proclaiming that he'd been looking for my mother for years and that he'd never stopped loving her. When the king married my mother, I became a prince. It was just as the witch promised. But it didn't matter. I didn't see it when I made the deal with the witch, but I couldn't be blind to it forever. Desmond and Viorica really do love each other. They make each other happy. Nothing I can do will ever change that. Rod, Oh, so he thinks that he's the reason that her mama and dad got married. Oh. Prince Rod? Oh. Parfait pauses in her tracks when she sees me. Have I interrupted something? No. Rod moves over to Parfait, but he stops to glance back at me. I won't be long. Parfait looks at Rod and then at me, her face puzzled, but she does not say a word as Rod and her leave the room. Oh. I did not get the chance to discuss Rod's curse with him later that night, nor did I get the chance to speak with Parfait and Delora about my suspicions of Sir Alcaster. Days go by, but still I find myself overwhelmed by preparations for the ball. Things become more frantic every day, making it difficult for me to have any time to speak with anyone. Eventually, I decide to write a letter containing my suspicions of Sir Alcaster. I tell Parfait and Delora that I believe he might be the witch they are looking for. I also add that I believe Fritz might somehow be involved, though my suspicions are not as well founded with him. To make matters worse, he went and disappeared. I have not heard anyone mention his name here for a very long time. He's changed to Varg. I think his name is Varg. Warg? I don't know. But he's changed, I bet you. I am forcibly pulled from my thoughts when I collide with someone. The linens I had been holding scatter over the floor. Excuse me, I did not... I look up and my voice trails off when I see who I bumped into. Lost in your thoughts? Ah, it's Mithras, run! Sir Mithras looks at me, something veiled in his smiling eyes. Suppose these are the linens the queen asked for? Yes, please excuse me. I begin gathering up the linens, but as I reach out for one, Sir Mithras picks it up first. Allow me to help you. I will be fine. But this was partially my fault. Let me assist you. Don't do it. Don't take his help. Run. I bite my lip and do not protest as Sir Mithras helps me gather the rest of the linens. I am contemplating my schedule for the rest of the day when I realize that Sir Mithras has been talking. I don't suppose you have any idea on who that maid is. Maid? There's a cold amusement in Sir Mithras' gaze. Surely you've heard the rumors of the young prince having been seen with the royal maid somewhere around town. Rumor has it that Prince Rod has found love among the common folk, much like his royal stepfather has. Rod with a maid? As far as I'm aware, the only maid he has been out with in town has been... I freeze as Sir Mithras straightens, patting down his clothes for dust before holding out some of the linens to me. If it is true, I wish him the best, though I wish he would be more discreet about it. A royal scandal is the last thing we need right now. I shakily take the linens from Sir Mithras as he inclines his head to me. Have a good day, Lilac. I walk to the dining hall in a haze, my mind whirling with the implications of what Sir Mithras had just said. I am sure it was those noblewomen who spread this rumor. Oh yeah, for sure. Lilac, thank you for bringing these to me. Just leave them on the table. I curtsy after placing the linens down as commanded. If that is all. Lilac. I straighten at the tone of Ophelia's voice, when I look up and see that her expression is carefully still. I am about to ask you something that you might not want to answer, but I very much hope you will. I will answer if I can. Good. Ophelia sighs as she sits down on one of the dining table chairs and folds her hands in her lap. I've been trying to ignore it since palace gossip is mostly false, but I can't help my curiosity. I want to ask you about your relationship with my son. Ha 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 ha. Oh dear. What? I understand you and Rod were out together in town a few days ago. Do you want to tell me what happened? Explain the situation. If Ophelia is asking me about these rumors, then I can only imagine what sort of story those women made up. Prince Rod was just on his way somewhere when he chanced upon me. When he saw that I was in trouble with two noblewomen, he stopped to intervene. That is all. Rod said the same thing. Then why did you ask me, Your Majesty? To see what you thought about the situation. I don't think anyone should get a say in what your relationship with Rod is. My relationship with Rod? Words. I like you, Lilac, and I'm certain that you are good for Rod. If I had my way, I would let him court you. What? I feel heat in my cheeks as I trip over my words. The prince and I are not in a relationship. A member of the royal family cannot end up with a servant. Where there's love, there's hope. Social status shouldn't stop you from being happy, Lilac. Then what about the fact that I am Rod's stepsister? I bite down on this statement fiercely. I already know what role I am playing here, and I cannot break it. Ophelia looks at me with a complicated expression before she sighs. I will not push you on this any further. But be careful, Lilac. Your closeness with my son and daughter has not gone unnoticed. I do not believe in limiting relationships because of one's status, but I understand. I curtsy as I move toward the dining hall's entrance. What did Ophelia mean by that closeness not going unnoticed? Later that day, as I am waiting outside the throne room for Emmeline to finish one of her classes, two maids walk toward me and stop in front of me. Lilac, isn't it? Oh, no. What is it? I've already finished all my tasks for the day. Oh, I'm sure you have. Probably rushed through all of them so that you could hang around the prince and princess tonight. The head housekeeper's been giving you a lighter load so you can afford the time to play around, I blink at them, confused. I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't play dumb. All the servants know what you've been doing. Just because you're the Princess Emmeline's personal maid doesn't make you better than the rest of us. I'd be careful not to get it too big for your boots, Lilac. Are you threatening me? What if we are? Then I'd be very disappointed in you. Ha 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 ha. Princess Emmeline. Emmeline moves to stand beside me, a disapproving expression on her face. I don't expect such petty cruelty from the two of you. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Your Highness. You really do have a talent for getting yourself into trouble. Rod. Rod pauses briefly as his eyes meet mine for a second before he looks at the maids. Don't you have better things to do than bully my sister's maid? We apologize, Your Highness. We'll be on our way. The two maids run off. Emmeline turns to look at me. Are you okay? I'm about to answer when I notice that Rod is abruptly walking away from us. I frown at his back. He had only just started being nice to me, and now he's back to acting as if I do not exist. I mean, that is kind of for the best with these rumors. What did I do? Emmeline puts her hands on my back and gently pushes me forward. You wanted to ask him something, right? I could see it in your eyes. Emmeline smiles as she pushes the door to the throne room open. I have a few more questions to ask my teacher. I'll be a while. But she disappears into the throne room before I can finish. I glance down the hallway Rod just disappeared down, and then back at the throne room. My thoughts swirl together in a vague mess until I make my decision. Wait! At the sound of my footsteps approaching, Rod turns and looks at me. He scowls but doesn't say anything. I mean, you ran all this way, so tell him off. The words spill out of me before I can even think on them. What have I done to make you angry with me? Nothing. He turns away and I glare as I follow closely behind him. You expect me to believe that? You can at least look at me when I'm talking to you. I reach out a hand to his elbow and pull him back so that he is facing me. Rod. But the words die in my throat when I see the expression on his face. His face is red and he refuses to look me in the eye. Ah, child. My surprise causes me to release him. Rod quickly turns around and begins to walk away. I am left to stare dumbly at him. What is wrong with him? Normally he is not afraid to speak his mind. I frown as I feel a dull ache throbbing somewhere deep in my chest. What is this? Why do I feel sad? Normally Rod's distance does not make me feel like this. And yet now, am I really so sad that he does not want to speak with me? See, you guys should have been thinking of each other as brother and sister this entire time. Like, I don't understand why you're thinking of each other as anything different. Like, does Rod know that you two can be a couple just because you're step siblings? Does he not care? Is he like, if she doesn't break her curse, I can date her? Because it's not, like, legally a thing that I have to worry about now. Like, what is... Why aren't you guys thinking of each other as siblings, and why are you instead thinking of each other as romantic partners? I don't understand. I guess the heart wants what the heart wants. I don't know. I shake my head and take a deep breath to still my mind. It is better not to think about it. Ooh, Chapter 8, The Ball! Yay, we're at Chapter 8. We're gonna go ahead and end it here. Remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Cause, yes, we have gotten a stable situation here so far. Hopefully there will be no more running around and raving and ranting and hunting and pillaging, and we will all be good to go, and we will be able to finish this series. I hope you all are having a wonderful afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this. I hope you're having a wonderful time. And, yeah, bye!